January 27, 1868, the southern gates of Kyoto. 15,000 samurai, warriors whose families had served the shogun for 2.5 centuries, charged toward an imperial army 1/3 their size. They carried swords forged by masters. They wore armor passed down through generations. They followed the Bushido code that had defined Japan for 600 years. But the enemy had something else: Gatling guns, howitzers, breech-loading rifles. By sunset, the age of the samurai was over. To understand how Japan tore itself apart, we need to go back 15 years. 1853. Commodore Matthew Perry's black ships appeared in Edo Harbor, modern American warships that could obliterate Japan's coastal defenses in minutes. The Tokugawa shogunate, the military government that had ruled Japan since 1603, faced an impossible choice: open the country to foreign trade or face annihilation. They chose survival, but in doing so, they revealed their own weakness. For the next 15 years, two powerful domains, Satsuma and Choshu, watched the shogunate stumble. They modernized in secret. They bought Western weapons. They trained their troops in European tactics, and they had a radical idea. Political power should return to the emperor, not because they believed in divine rule, but because the emperor was a symbol they could unite behind, a way to destroy the shogunate without looking like rebels. It was brilliant, and it was brutal. In late 1867, the emperor issued a decree. The House of Tokugawa was dissolved. The shogun's response? He would fight. January 27, 1868, the shogunate's army, over 15,000 strong, attacked the imperial forces at Kyoto's southern entrance. Here's what most documentaries won't tell you. The shogun's army was larger, better trained in traditional combat, led by experienced samurai who had never lost a major battle. But they were fighting the past. The imperial forces had only 5,000 troops, but they had rifles, howitzers, and those Gatling guns, weapons that could fire 200 rounds per minute. The battle lasted 2 days. When it ended, several major daimyo, feudal lords, switched sides. They saw the future, and it didn't include swords. February 7th. The former shogun, Tokugawa Yoshinobu, fled Osaka Castle and retreated to Edo, modern-day Tokyo. His forces, demoralized, surrendered Osaka the next day. And here's a detail that reveals everything about this war. The Western powers, Britain, France, America, officially recognized the emperor's government as the legitimate government of Japan in early February. While the war was still raging, they weren't neutral observers. They were choosing the side they thought would win and would trade with them. The shogunate wasn't just fighting a civil war. They were fighting globalization. But not everyone in the West supported the emperor. Meet Jules Brunet, a French artillery captain, military advisor sent by Napoleon III to modernize the shogun's army. When the shogunate collapsed, Brunet faced a choice: follow his orders and return to France, or defy his government and fight alongside the warriors he trained. He chose honor over orders. In August 1868, Brunet joined Enomoto Takeaki, the vice commander of the shogunate navy, who refused to surrender his fleet to the new government. Enomoto departed Shinagawa on August 20th with 8 warships, 4 steam warships, and 4 transports, carrying 2,000 sailors and troops loyal to the old regime. The next day, they sailed into a typhoon off Choshi. One ship, the Mikaho, was lost. Another, the Kanrenmaru, was so badly damaged it had to turn back and was captured. But Enomoto pressed north. His plan? Join forces with the Northern Coalition. Samurai clans in northern Japan still loyal to the shogunate. Matsu Dairataro, vice commander of the shogunate army, joined him. Iba Hachiro and his guerrilla corps, and several members of the French military mission, including Brunet. They weren't just fleeing, they were regrouping. The coalition fought hard through spring and summer of 1869, but they relied on traditional tactics, traditional weapons. The imperial forces, well armed with Western technology, pushed north relentlessly. On November 6, 1869, the last Aizu samurai surrendered at Wakamatsu. 2 weeks earlier, something historic had happened. The Meiji period officially began. Edo was renamed Tokyo, the eastern capital. A new Japan was being born, but the war wasn't over. October 20th, 1868, Enomoto's fleet, now carrying 3,000 troops, landed on Washinoki Bay behind Hakodate on the northern island of Hokkaido. They moved fast, eliminated local resistance from the Matsumai domain, which had declared loyalty to the emperor. October 26th, they occupied Goryokaku, a massive, star-shaped fortress built in the Western style. It became their headquarters. Over the next month, they launched expeditions across southern Hokkaido. November 5th, Hijikata Toshizo and 800 troops, supported by the warships Kaiten and Banryo, captured Matsumai Castle. November 14th, they converged on Asahi with their flagship, the Kaiomaru. Then disaster struck. A tempest near Asahi destroyed the Kaiomaru. The transport ship Shinsoku was lost trying to rescue survivors. They'd lost their most powerful warships, but they weren't finished. December 25th, 1868, Christmas Day. After eliminating all local resistance, the rebels made an extraordinary declaration, the establishment of the Republic of Ezo. Think about what this means. In a country that had been ruled by shoguns and emperors for 1,000 years, a group of samurai created a republic with an elected president, Enomoto Takeaki, organized like the United States government. Japan's first and only attempted democracy wouldn't come from the emperor. It came from the samurai who refused to surrender. They built a sophisticated defense network around Hakodate. The leadership was a fusion of French and Japanese officers. Otori Keisuke, Commander-in-Chief; Jules Brunet, second-in-command. Each of the 4 brigades commanded by French officers, Fortin, Marlin, André Cazeneuve, and Bouffier, supported by Japanese commanders. 2 ex-French Navy officers, Eugene Collache and Henri Nicole, joined the cause. Collache built fortified positions in the volcanic mountains around Hakodate. Nicole reorganized the Navy. The Meiji government in Tokyo refused to recognize the Republic, and they began preparing their response. March 9, 1869. The Imperial Fleet departed Tokyo. At its center, the Kotetsu, an ironclad warship acquired from the United States, nearly invincible, supported by ships from the powerful Saga, Choshu, and Satsuma domains. They were coming north, but the Ezo Republic struck first. The Battle of Miyako Bay, a desperate surprise attack. 3 Ezo warships, the Kaiten carrying elite Shinsengumi warriors and Henri Nicole, the Banryu with French officer Clateau, the Takao with Eugene Collache. The Kaiten entered Miyako Harbor flying an American flag, a deception. Seconds before boarding the Kotetsu, they raised the Ezo Republic flag. The crew of the Kotetsu was ready. They repelled the boarding with Gatling gunfire. The attackers suffered devastating losses. The Ezo warships retreated. The Takao was pursued and beached, captured. The gambit had failed. April 9th, 1869. 7,000 Imperial troops landed on Hokkaido. They moved methodically, taking defensive positions one by one. The final battle would be fought at Goryokaku Fortress in Bentendaiba near Hakodate. May 1869. The naval battle of Hakodate Bay, Japan's first major engagement between 2 modern navies. Steam power, Armstrong guns, ironclad armor. This wasn't samurai warfare anymore. Before the final collapse, the French military advisors made their escape. They boarded the French warship Coetlegon, stationed in Hakodate Bay, returned to Yokohama, eventually to France. Jules Brunet would later claim he never officially resigned from the French army. He called it an extended leave of absence. June 27, 1869, the military of the Ezo Republic surrendered to the Meiji government. They had lost almost half their forces, most of their ships, and their dream of an alternative Japan. Here's what the history books often miss. The Boshin War wasn't just about restoring the emperor. It was about which vision of Japan would survive the collision with the modern world. The shogunate represented stability, tradition, a Japan that had thrived in isolation for 2 centuries. The imperial forces represented modernization, industrialization, a Japan that could compete with Western powers. And the Ezo Republic? They represented something else entirely, a third path, a democratic experiment born from warriors who understood both honor and pragmatism. Today, if you visit Goryokaku Park in Hakodate, you can walk the star-shaped walls where the last samurai made their stand. The internal structures, stores, stables, prisons, were dismantled after the Republic's defeat. But the great stone walls remain. The Hakodate Bugyosho, the magistrate's office where the Republic was governed, was reconstructed in 2006. It stands as a monument to traditional shogunate Japan, surrounded by a city that embraced Western influence. And remember Saigo Takamori, the last samurai who led imperial troops to victory? Years later, he regretted his role in the Meiji Restoration. In 1877, he led the Satsuma Rebellion against the government he'd helped create. It ended with his death. The leaders of the Ezo Republic were imprisoned for a few years, then rehabilitated. Many went on to successful political careers in the unified Japan they'd fought against. The Imperial Japanese Navy was formally established in July 1869, incorporating many combatants and ships from the Battle of Hakodate. Among them, a young gunner named Togo Heihachiro, who served on the paddle steamer Kasuga during the battle. In 1905, Admiral Togo would lead Japan to victory against Russia at the Battle of Tsushima, establishing Japan as a world naval power. The seeds of that triumph were planted at Hakodate. The Boshin War lasted only 2 years, but it created modern Japan and destroyed 1,000 years of tradition in the process. The cost? Thousands of lives, an entire way of life, and a democratic experiment that might have changed everything. Some call it progress. The samurai who died at Goryokaku might have called it something else. If you want to explore more forgotten conflicts that shaped our world, hit that subscribe button. Next week, the Irish Brigade at Gettysburg, European soldiers fighting America's bloodiest battle. This is Forgotten Front Lines, where history remembers everyone.